Hi everyone, this is Jan Wilczek from thewolfsound.com, and today I wanted to talk leisurely about differences between studying in Poland and studying in Germany. First of all, why am I eligible to talk about any of that? Well, I have studied myself in Poland for 4 years, in Germany for almost a year, but I also have a lot of friends in different universities, both in Germany and in Poland, and at different stages of their academic development. Also in the PhD programs and after PhD programs. So after all the discussions with them, I came up with some pretty significant differences that may be interesting for you if you're planning to move your universities or change your university either from Poland to Germany or from Germany to Poland, who knows. So the first thing that comes to my mind is that you need to understand that German academic system and Polish academic systems are a little bit different because they were developed in different time periods. So there are like a lot of subtle differences, also in the way that students and professors are being treated, but also there are differences from the organizational point of view. So it's really understand that there's a different historical background for the development of universities. The second thing that comes to my mind is that there is no compulsory presence in Germany. It basically means that you have to show up only once for the exam. In any other case, you don't have to be at the university at all. Basically, you could be in like a different country and no one would care. The only exception to that are of course the labs, because there you need to be in presence and you also need to carry out some sort of experiment, maybe do a project, and you don't get a grade from it, but you need to pass it. Especially in the engineering field, there are a lot of labs and probably there are like a couple of times that you actually need to be a lot at the university. Well, on the other hand, in Poland, there are a lot of compulsory classes. For example, exercise sessions are compulsory. You have to be there, you have to write tests, and what is more, you need to pass them from what you get a grade that is counted towards your final grade. So in Germany, I will talk about it in a second, the only grade is from the exam, but in Poland you also need to take exercise session and according labs into account. But what's interesting for me is that in Poland the lecture, well, theoretically it's not compulsory, but there are a lot of cases in which it's either officially compulsory or like unofficially compulsory. So it's advisable to show up, to be there, and sometimes the presence is checked. I know it may sound weird for people from Germany to hear that, but actually I feel that in Poland like nearly 100% of classes is actually compulsory. I would never advise someone not to attend classes in Poland, whereas in Germany you should basically choose based on your own opinion. Okay, another thing that I mentioned are the exams. So in Germany, an exam is like the only proof of your knowledge out of the entire subject area. So you can like do not attend the lectures, do not attend the exercise sessions, just write the exam and well, you may very well get a better grade, better note than someone who has attended all the classes, all the lectures. And on like a side note, for me it's like a really interesting approach because it forces the students to work on their own and to be up to date with the material. It's like the pure definition of studying. Like you can only study on your own, and then when you get the grade, well, you're good to go. On the other hand, in Poland, you have a lot of things you have to do throughout the semester, like projects, but also tests, which may be a lot actually, like lab experiments that can be graded, like each lab session can be graded. You can have lab entrance tests that are graded that count towards your final grade. And sometimes like the exam is 50% of their final grade, but sometimes it is like 40 or maybe 30% of your final grade. And sometimes there is no exam at all. Like you receive a grade from the exercise session and that's like your final grade. like you're good to go. You don't have to write the exam. It's different in the sense that you approach the exams themselves. Basically in Poland, when you are able to write an exam, so you received a positive grade from the exercise and the lab, then you're quite happy with it, and like maybe you're not 100% sure that you'll pass the exam, but it's like a smaller trouble for you to actually pass the exam. So I would say that like 3 days before the exams, you are able to start studying and you're really likely to pass. Whereas in Germany, you should start studying for the exams at least a month before they actually are there. And that results from this difference that, as I said, in Germany, it's a test of like all you've learned throughout the semester, whereas in Poland, it's like something slightly above what you've done throughout the semester, but like you had all these tests before, so maybe not everything has to be there. Well, you can get the difference. Maybe one exception could be when there's only lecture, like there's no exercise, no lab, and then maybe the exam kind of similar, but then again, like you get maybe 3 exams, 5 exams in each semester, but you know, it also varies between the universities, so it's really hard to tell. But in Germany, as I said, only 1 exam. Okay, apart from like exam being the only proof of knowledge and that you have to study for it for a longer time, in Germany you can also register for an exam, which means that you need to plan ahead like what subjects you will want to write an exam from. Actually, the exam is independent of the time you attend the lectures or do the exercise sessions, or you can even say to yourself, hey, I want to write this subject, I won't like attend anything, I'll just register for it and then I'll write it. Or you can also register for like more exams, and then 3 days before the actual exam you can deregister. Actually, there's like a lot of people do that. They don't feel confident before the exam, so they deregister and then they say that they will write the exam in the next semester. It also like underlines adult approach to the student, that it's up to the student when they will write the exam. Whereas in Poland, since you have to pass the exercise session, only then you can do the exam. So you can't like postpone it to the next semester, because then you would have to do the exercise session again and the lab session again. And it's not always possible to copy over your grade from the exercise session. So that's like a huge difference right there. Another thing is that in Germany, you get only 1 term for the exam. And in Poland, you get like 3 terms per semester. In Germany, like you wrote the exam, you didn't pass. So you have to wait like another half a year or even a year if it's not offered in the subsequent semester to write the exam again. In Poland, you sometimes like get the results and in 2 days, on one day, in one case it was like, I don't know, 12 hours, you learn that you need to study more because you didn't pass, so you have like a second term. And well, basically it takes off a lot of pressure from you, because you know, well, if you don't pass the first term, then you also have the second and third term. And it's really pleasant, I would say. Well, in Germany, you are really like pushed to do this in the first term, because, well, then you will have to do this next semester when you have maybe additional subjects to do. So it's not that easy. Well, another thing, like the last thing concerning the exams, is that in Germany the professors are, I would say, a lot less involved in creating the exams. Basically the co-workers do the exam, they prepare the questions and then correct it, maybe some PhD students. But in Poland, most likely the professors themselves do the examination, carry out the oral exams. So like there's a shifted responsibility, I would say, between these two systems. Well, in some cases the professor might even not know the questions that were in the exam in Germany. So it's also something that was interesting for me. Okay, another thing that is different between Germany and Poland when it comes to universities is that in Germany your study program does not equal the subjects you're going to do. Basically, your study program is like a general outline that somehow like tells you in which direction you are going, which subjects you could take to get to a specific point. But basically it does not determine which subjects you need to take. You can register for any exam whatsoever. Maybe sometimes there are like some special regulations that you need to take like 15 credits from this subject and another 20 from these subjects. But you're most likely free to choose, and I often experience that you end up with different people in different subjects. Whereas in Poland you have your study program, you have quite a fixed curriculum, you stick to it, and then you have basically the same group of people that goes with you throughout the entire program. There are some like minor variations, but basically you can develop like stronger relationships than in the case that you are basically with random people in each subject. And of course it varies, like it's not in every university in Poland is the same, it's not. But from my experience and the experience of my friends, basically you study with the same group of people unless someone falls behind. So that's like really interesting approach to the flexibility of the programs. A very important point when it comes to differences between Germany and Poland is that in Germany, student jobs are really popular. Student job is a part-time job that student gets at the university, so he or she is really employed at the university and receives salary from it. You can also contribute toward your pension. It's like basically like a normal job. Of course, it maybe pays a little less than working in the industry, but may somehow be related to your scientific interests. And like a lot of students from abroad, they actually make a living using their student jobs. So I think it's a great opportunity for them. Whereas in Poland, like it's actually, I've never heard of it. Unless you're part of some grant or some like scientific project that is being funded by by the university or an outside foundation, then you basically have like zero chances to get any money from the university. When it comes to scholarships, that I would say it's really similar in Germany and Poland, but when it comes to student jobs, it's really interesting how it developed in Germany. Okay, and the last thing I want to mention when it comes to differences between Poland and Germany is that, well, in Poland you have this fixed curricula. It's highly probable that you will graduate with the same group of people, and because you have to pass the exercise sessions and then the exam and then the subjects in the subsequent semesters, as you go with like your batch, with the group you started with, then actually like people tend to finish in the time that is prescribed for finishing their studies. What I mean by this is that usually like Bachelor of Engineering degrees are like 3.5 years. Bachelor degrees are 3 years. Master degrees are either like 3 semesters or 4 semesters long. And you basically would always end in this time for the majority of people. Whereas in Germany, what I see is that like studying is something you can do long term. There are really a lot of people who take their time and complete their masters and bachelors in like 10 years. Maybe like in Germany you have also like a little bit different education system, so maybe they do an internship beforehand in the industry, then maybe they go to some like vocational school, only then they do the bachelor's, or sometimes they do like one bachelor degree and then another bachelor degree in a related or completely different area, and only then they do the master degree. And then, for example, they study master's degree for 3 years because they can like postpone the exams, do the projects in different time slots. Maybe they have a part-time job to make for their living, so they cannot focus as much on studying, or they cannot study full-time. And the same, I would say, concerns like the PhD positions. Like this is like not really fixed how long you do a PhD, but yeah, maybe in Poland you can say that it's the same in some circumstances. But definitely like the master and bachelor degrees in Poland, I would say like the majority of students complete them in the prescribed time, whereas in Germany you're basically encouraged it's viewed as something normal and positive, that you do your program in more semester, more years, and just, I don't know, enjoy your student life in that period. These are just different approaches. I'm not saying that one is better than the other, but it also struck me as someone coming from abroad to Germany. Okay, so these were the points that I had in my mind when it comes to differences between studying in Poland and in Germany. And I would really like to hear from you. What are your experiences from studying in the country that you are from? Maybe you are in India and you have similar experience, or completely different. Maybe you're from Iran and you can relate to one of these systems. Maybe you are from the States and you find the things I mentioned like completely odd and out of place. Please let me know in the comments. I'm really curious what you think. If you would like to hear more about studying and all that comes with it, I encourage you to subscribe to this channel. From time to time I'm going to post videos like this one, because studying is also a subject that I like talking about. Okay, so please, as I said, subscribe to the channel, hit the thumbs up and leave a comment. And other than that, enjoy, and I hope we'll see each other in the next video. Take care.